Zainab pushed her cleaning cart down the long corridor of the Grandview Hotel, her feet dragging with each step. The wheels of the cart squeaked softly as she moved from room to room on the 35th floor. It was already past 6 in the evening, and she still had 3 more floors to clean before her shift ended. She had been working since 5 in the morning, cleaning rooms, changing sheets, and scrubbing bathrooms without a break. Her body ached in places she did not even know could hurt. She thought about her mother, Fatima, who was at home lying in bed. Her mother had diabetes and her health was getting worse every day. Zainab's younger brother, Deo, was only 16 years old and still in school. Their father had passed away 5 years ago, and since then, Zainab had been the only one taking care of the family. She worked 2 jobs, one at the hotel during the day and one doing laundry work at night for extra money. But no matter how hard she worked, it was never enough. The medical bills kept coming, the rent was always due, and her brother needed school fees. Zainab was only 24 years old, but she felt much older. The weight of responsibility had aged her before her time. Sometimes, when she looked in the mirror, she did not recognize the tired face staring back at her. Her eyes had dark circles under them, and her skin had lost its glow. But there was no time to think about these things. She had a job to do and her family was depending on her. The notification on her phone buzzed. It was a message from the hotel manager asking her to prepare the penthouse suite on the 42nd floor. A very important guest was arriving that evening. The billionaire, Kofi Mensah, was coming to stay at the hotel for a week. Zainab had heard about him from the other workers. He was a successful businessman from Ghana who had made millions in the telecommunications industry. He was also known for his charity work in helping poor people across Africa. Zainab took the elevator to the top floor. When the doors opened, she stepped into a world of luxury that was so different from her small apartment. The penthouse was enormous, with high ceilings, crystal chandeliers, and windows that looked out over the entire city of Lagos. The furniture was expensive and beautiful. Everything was spotless and perfect. She had cleaned this room many times before, but it still amazed her every time she entered it. She began her work, changing the white Egyptian cotton sheets on the massive bed. The sheets felt so soft in her hands, like touching clouds. She had never owned sheets like these in her entire life. The pillows were filled with down feathers, and they were so comfortable that she wanted to just lie down and rest her head. She continued cleaning the bathroom, which had a bathtub that looked more like a swimming pool and a shower with 10 different shower heads. As Zainab worked, her exhaustion grew heavier and heavier. She had not slept properly in weeks. She was always worried about money, about her mother's health, about whether she could pay the bills. Her body was screaming for rest. Her eyes felt like they were closing on their own. She had taken some strong coffee that morning, but it had worn off long ago. After she finished changing the sheets and cleaning the bathroom, Zainab decided to take just a small break. She sat down on the edge of the huge bed, telling herself that she would rest for only 1 minute. Just 1 minute, and then she would continue her work and finish the penthouse. She lay back on the soft pillows, and the comfort of the bed wrapped around her like a warm blanket. The mattress seemed to embrace her tired body, offering relief that she had not felt in months. 1 minute became 5 minutes. 5 minutes became 30 minutes. And then, without even realizing it, Zainab fell into a deep sleep. Her tired body had finally given up fighting. She was so exhausted that she did not even dream. She simply disappeared into a darkness of complete rest, her chest rising and falling slowly as she slept the sleep of someone who had been pushing themselves to the very edge of their strength. Meanwhile, on the ground floor of the hotel, Kofi Mensah was checking in. He was a tall man with a strong presence. People looked at him when he walked through the lobby, not because of his clothes, although they were expensive, but because of the confidence that surrounded him like an invisible shield. He had kind eyes, but they were also sharp and intelligent. He had built his business empire by being smart, working hard, and treating people with respect. The manager rushed over to greet him personally. "Welcome to the Grandview Hotel, Mr. Mensah. We are honored to have you stay with us. I hope you will find everything to your liking. Your penthouse suite is ready for you on the 42nd floor." Kofi thanked the manager and took the elevator to the top floor. He was looking forward to a quiet evening. He had been traveling all week, meeting with business partners and attending important meetings. He wanted to relax in his room, order some food, and perhaps read a book before going to bed early. The elevator doors opened silently, and Kofi walked down the corridor to his suite. He put his key in the lock and opened the door. And then he stopped. There, lying on his bed, was a young woman in a hotel cleaning uniform. She was fast asleep, her face peaceful and innocent. For a moment, Kofi did not know what to do. His first thought was to call the manager and ask what was happening. But then he looked more carefully at the sleeping woman. He could see how thin she was, how the bones of her shoulders showed through her uniform. He could see the exhaustion written all over her face even in sleep. He could see her hands, which were rough from hard work, resting on top of the blanket. And something in his heart moved. This was not a person trying to steal or cause trouble. This was a person who was simply too tired to continue. Kofi quietly found a blanket in the room and gently covered the sleeping woman. Then he sat in a chair nearby and watched her sleep. He thought about his own life, about how hard he had worked to get where he was, about the people who had helped him along the way. He wondered what story this woman had, what struggles had brought her to this moment of falling asleep in a billionaire's bed. After about an hour, Kofi picked up the phone and called the hotel manager. "Yes, this is Kofi Mensah in the penthouse. I need you to come up and bring me some tea and biscuits. And do not tell anyone about this. I would like to have a private conversation with one of your staff members." The manager arrived with the tea, looking confused and worried about what could be wrong. But Kofi reassured him that everything was fine and asked him to go back downstairs. Then Kofi gently knocked on the door of the bedroom to wake the sleeping woman. Zainab's eyes flew open. For a moment she did not know where she was. Then everything came back to her in a rush of panic and fear. She was in the billionaire's bed. The billionaire's bed. And he was standing right there looking at her. Zainab scrambled to her feet, her heart pounding so hard that she thought it might explode out of her chest. She was shaking and her mind was racing with terrible thoughts. She had lost her job. She was going to be arrested. Her family would suffer because of her carelessness. She looked at the man standing in the doorway trying to read his expression, but his face was calm and unreadable. "I am so very sorry, sir," Zainab stammered, her voice trembling with fear. "I did not mean to fall asleep. I was just cleaning the room and I felt so tired and I thought I would rest for just one moment. I did not steal anything. I did not touch your belongings. I promise you, sir, this will never happen again. Please do not call the police. Please, I beg you." Kofi held up his hand gently. "Sit down," he said in a calm voice. It was not a harsh command but a kind request. "Please just sit down. You are safe. I am not angry with you." Zainab hesitated. She did not believe him. This was a trap. Rich people like him did not forgive poor people like her. They called the police and had them arrested. But as she looked into his eyes, she saw something there that surprised her. She saw kindness. She saw understanding. Slowly she sat down in the chair that he pointed to. Kofi sat down across from her. He had arranged for tea and biscuits to be brought to the room, and these sat on the table between them. "Drink some tea," he said. "You look like you need it." Zainab picked up the cup with shaking hands. The tea was warm and sweet and it calmed her nerves a little bit. She waited for Kofi to speak, but he said nothing for several minutes. He just watched her with his intelligent eyes. "What is your name?" he finally asked. "Zainab." "Zainab Okafor, sir," she replied quietly. "How long have you worked at this hotel, Zainab?" 3 years, sir. I have never done anything like this before. I have a good record. The manager can tell you that I am a hard worker and that I am honest." Kofi nodded slowly. "I believe you. But tell me, Zainab, why are you so tired?" A person does not fall into such a deep sleep without a very good reason. Something about the way he asked the question, with genuine curiosity rather than judgment, made Zainab's carefully built walls crumble. She had been holding everything inside for so long, pretending to be strong, not allowing herself to cry or complain. But now, sitting in this luxurious penthouse with this stranger, she felt safe enough to speak the truth. She began to talk. She told him about her mother, about how Fatima had developed diabetes 5 years ago and her health was getting worse. She talked about the medical bills that seemed to never end, about the cost of insulin and the regular doctor visits that she could barely afford. She told him about her father's death and how she had become the head of the family at such a young age. Zainab spoke about her brother Deo and his dream of becoming an engineer. She explained how she worked 2 jobs to pay for his school fees and how she also had to pay rent for their small apartment in a poor neighborhood of Lagos. She told Kofi about the nights she cried herself to sleep because she did not have enough money to buy her mother's medicine and pay the electricity bill at the same time. She shared the pain of having to choose between buying food for her family and buying the things her brother needed for school. As she spoke, tears streamed down her face. She had not cried in front of anyone in years. She had always been the strong one, the one who held everything together. But now the tears came pouring out like rain and she could not stop them. Kofi listened to every word without interrupting her. He did not look away or show impatience. He simply listened with his full attention, and when Zainab finished, he reached across the table and handed her a box of tissues. "You are carrying a very heavy load," he said softly. "A load that no one your age should have to carry alone. But I can see that you are strong. I can see that you love your family very much, and you are willing to sacrifice everything for them." "I have no choice," Zainab said. "They are my responsibility." "You do have a choice," Kofi replied. "Many people in your situation would have given up. They would have abandoned their family or turned to crime or given themselves over to despair. But you have not done any of these things. You show up to work every day. You do your job well. You take care of your family. That speaks volumes about your character, Zainab." They talked for hours that evening. Kofi told Zainab about his own life, about how he had grown up in a small village in Ghana with nothing. His parents were farmers and they had very little money. He told her about how he had worked hard in school, how he had walked 5 kilometers every day to reach the nearest secondary school, and how he had studied by candlelight because there was no electricity in his village. He shared his failures with her too. He told her about business ventures that had failed, about times when he had lost money and felt like giving up. But he also told her about the people who had believed in him, who had given him opportunities when he had nothing, and how those people had changed his life. By the time they stopped talking, it was past midnight. Zainab felt different. She felt lighter, as if she had put down a heavy burden and someone else was helping her carry it. "I would like to offer you a job," Kofi said as Zainab was preparing to leave. "I need a personal assistant while I am in Lagos. Someone to organize my schedule, to manage my appointments, to help me with my daily work. I will pay you triple what you are currently earning at the hotel. Are you interested?" Zainab's eyes widened. Triple her salary? That would change everything for her family. But she was also suspicious. "Why would you do this for me, sir?" she asked. "You do not know me. What do you want in return?" Kofi smiled. "I want nothing in return except your honesty and your hard work. I believe in you, Zainab. I believe that you have potential to do great things. This is not charity. This is an investment in someone I think is worth investing in." The next morning, Zainab reported to the penthouse as Kofi's assistant. Over the following weeks, she worked hard and proved herself to be reliable and intelligent. But she remained cautious. She had heard stories about wealthy men who helped young women only to expect something inappropriate in return. She kept her professional boundaries and never allowed herself to be alone with Kofi in informal settings. Kofi seemed to understand her caution and he respected it. He never overstepped. Instead, he began to help her in other ways. He introduced her to a woman named Dr. Aisha, who ran a nursing program at the university. He left business books on her desk and asked her about her dreams. He showed genuine interest in her future, not just as his employee but as a person. One afternoon, as Zainab was organizing some documents, Kofi called her into his office with exciting news. Kofi sat behind his large desk, a folder in his hands. He looked at Zainab with a smile that seemed to hold a secret. "I have been making some inquiries," he said. "I spoke with the director of the nursing program at Lagos State University. They are willing to consider your application if you complete an entrance examination. I have also spoken with them about scholarship opportunities. Are you interested in pursuing your dream of becoming a nurse?" Zainab's breath caught in her throat. This was something she had wanted for so long, but it had always seemed impossible. A dream so far away that she had stopped even thinking about it. I do not have the money for university, sir," she said slowly. "And I cannot leave my mother alone. She needs me." "Your new salary will help your family while you study," Kofi replied. "And there are scholarship programs available. This is not impossible, Zainab. Nothing is impossible if you are willing to work for it." That evening, Zainab went home to her small apartment. The space was cramped and the walls were thin, but it was clean and it was hers. Her mother was sitting in a chair by the window looking out at the street below. She had lost weight since her illness had gotten worse, and her skin had taken on a grayish color that worried Zainab every single day. "How was work today?" her mother asked, turning to look at her daughter. Zainab sat down beside her mother and told her everything. She told her about falling asleep in the billionaire's bed, about meeting Kofi, about the job offer, and now about the university opportunity. She watched her mother's face as she spoke, waiting for a reaction. When Zainab finished, her mother reached out and took her hand. "My daughter," Fatima said, her voice weak but filled with emotion, "you have been taking care of me and your brother for so long. You have been carrying our whole family on your shoulders. Now it is time for you to take care of yourself. This is what I want for you. This is what your father would want for you. You must go to university. You must become a nurse. You must build a life for yourself." "But Mama, what about you? What if you need me?" Zainab asked, tears forming in her eyes. "I will be fine," her mother said firmly. "God has sent this man into your life for a reason. He believes in you. I believe in you. Now you must believe in yourself." Zainab enrolled at Lagos State University 2 weeks later. She passed her entrance examination with high marks, and the university offered her a full scholarship that covered her tuition fees. It was unbelievable. Her dream was becoming real. Her first day of classes was both exciting and terrifying. She walked into the lecture hall and looked around at all the other students. Many of them came from wealthy families. They wore nice clothes and carried expensive bags. They talked about things Zainab did not understand. She felt out of place, like she did not belong there. But she was determined. She had worked too hard to get here to give up now. She found a seat in the front row and opened her notebook. When the professor walked in, she paid attention to every single word. She took careful notes, and when the class ended, she asked questions to make sure she understood everything. By day, Zainab worked as Kofi's assistant. She organized his meetings, managed his correspondence, and helped him with his business tasks. By evening, she attended her nursing classes. At night, after class ended at 9 o'clock, she would go home and study until 2 or 3 in the morning. Then she would sleep for a few hours and wake up to start all over again. It was exhausting. Her body ached all the time. Her eyes felt heavy with fatigue. There were nights when she fell asleep while studying, her head dropping onto her textbook. There were days when she felt like she could not continue, when the weight of everything seemed too much to bear. But every time she wanted to give up, she thought about something. She thought about her mother, sitting in that chair by the window, encouraging her to pursue her dreams. She thought about her brother Deo, who was so proud of his sister for going to university. She thought about Kofi, who had believed in her when she was just a tired girl sleeping in a billionaire's bed. Kofi noticed how hard Zainab was working. He could see the exhaustion on her face, the way she sometimes nodded off during meetings, the way she pushed herself beyond her limits. One day he called her into his office and told her something that surprised her. "Zainab, I want to reduce your working hours," he said. "You are my assistant, yes, but you are also a student. Your education is more important right now than my schedule. I will hire someone else to help with some of the tasks. You will work 3 hours in the morning and 3 hours in the evening. This will give you time to study and attend your classes properly." Zainab wanted to protest. She was afraid that if she worked less, Kofi would feel that she was not deserving of his help. But Kofi explained that this was not about charity or handouts. This was about being smart with resources. He was investing in her future, and to get the best return on that investment, she needed to succeed in her studies. The reduced hours made a huge difference. Zainab was able to attend all her classes and still have time to study properly. Her grades improved. She went from being a struggling student to being one of the top students in her class. Her professors noticed her intelligence and her dedication. One of them, Professor Chioma, took a special interest in her. Professor Chioma was a woman in her 50s who had worked as a nurse for many years before becoming a teacher. She could see something in Zainab that reminded her of herself. She began to mentor her, teaching her things that went beyond the textbook, sharing her experience and wisdom. "You have the heart of a true nurse," Professor Chioma told her one day. "Not everyone has this quality. Many people come to nursing school because they want a good job or because their parents told them to. But you, Zainab, you come because you want to help people. I can see it in the way you approach your studies, in the way you treat your classmates, in the way you speak about your patients even though you have not worked in a hospital yet." At home, her mother Fatima was getting better. With Zainab's increased salary, they could now afford her medicine regularly. Her blood sugar levels were becoming more stable, and her doctor said that if she continued to take care of herself, she could live a long and healthy life. Seeing her mother's health improve was the greatest reward for Zainab. It motivated her to work even harder. Her brother Deo was also doing well in school. He had been accepted into a special engineering program for gifted students, and he was thriving. He would come home excited about the things he was learning, and he would tell Zainab all about his projects and his dreams of building bridges and roads across Nigeria. After 1 year of university, Zainab had completed her first year of nursing studies with excellent grades. She had proven to herself, to Kofi, to her family, and to everyone around her that she was not just someone looking for a handout. She was someone who was serious about self-improvement and willing to work hard for her dreams. When she looked back at that moment when she had fallen asleep in the billionaire's bed, she realized that it was the turning point in her life. That moment of exhaustion had led her to Kofi, and Kofi had believed in her when she did not believe in herself. But what mattered most was that Zainab had proven, through her dedication and hard work, that she was worthy of that belief. 3 years had passed since the day Zainab fell asleep in Kofi's bed. She stood in the lecture hall of Lagos State University, wearing her white nursing uniform and holding her certification diploma in her trembling hands. She had done it. After years of hard work, sacrifice and determination, she was now a registered nurse. Her name was officially Zainab Okafor, registered nurse. The graduation ceremony had been beautiful. Her mother sat in the front row, tears streaming down her face as she watched her daughter walk across the stage. Her brother Deo was there too, cheering loudly and clapping his hands so hard that they turned red. And Kofi was there, sitting beside her mother, his face filled with pride and genuine happiness for the young woman he had believed in from the very beginning. After the ceremony ended, Zainab went to embrace her family. Her mother held her tightly, her body shaking with emotion. "I am so proud of you, my daughter," Fatima whispered. "You have accomplished what you set out to do. You are a nurse now. You are going to help so many people." But Zainab's journey was not complete. That evening, Kofi invited her to his office to discuss something important. She sat across from him, wondering what he wanted to talk about now that she had graduated. "Zainab," Kofi began, "I have been watching you grow and learn over these past 3 years. I have seen how intelligent you are, how compassionate you are toward patients, how much you care about helping people. I have a proposal for you." Zainab leaned forward, listening carefully. "I want to establish a healthcare clinic in one of the underserved communities in Lagos," Kofi continued. "A place where poor people can come to receive medical care at affordable prices. I want you to be the head nurse and the manager of this clinic. You will work alongside doctors and other medical staff, and together, we will provide healthcare to people who cannot afford the expensive private hospitals." Zainab's eyes widened. This was more than she had ever imagined. "Are you sure about this, sir?" she asked. "I am just a newly graduated nurse. I have so much more to learn." "You have learned what you need to know," Kofi said firmly. "And you will continue to learn on the job. But more importantly, you have the right heart for this work. You understand poverty. You understand what it is like to struggle for medical care. You will treat your patients not just as patients, but as people with dignity and worth. That is what this clinic needs." Together, Zainab and Kofi began the process of establishing the clinic. They found a location in Bariga, one of the poorest neighborhoods in Lagos. The building was old and needed repair, but with Kofi's resources and Zainab's vision, they transformed it into a clean, modern healthcare facility. They painted the walls in bright, cheerful colors. They installed new equipment and stocked the shelves with medicines and supplies. Zainab was involved in every step of the process. She designed the patient areas, she organized the scheduling system, and she helped hire and train other nurses and medical staff. She worked tirelessly, often staying at the clinic late into the evening to make sure everything was perfect. When the clinic finally opened, it was an immediate success. People from the community came in large numbers. They came with their children who had malaria and typhoid. They came with elderly parents who had high blood pressure and diabetes. They came with wounds that needed treatment and illnesses that had gone untreated for far too long because they could not afford to go to expensive hospitals. Zainab worked hard every single day. She treated patients with kindness and respect. She sat with them and listened to their stories. She explained their conditions in simple language so that they could understand what was happening to their bodies. She showed them how to take their medicines and how to care for themselves at home. One day, a woman came into the clinic carrying a child who was burning with fever. The woman's name was Blessing, and she had heard about the clinic from her neighbors. She could not afford to take her son to the hospital, so she had waited until the clinic opened. Zainab examined the child and diagnosed him with malaria. She gave him medicine and instructed Blessing on how to care for him at home. But she also noticed that Blessing herself looked ill. She was very thin and her skin had a yellowish color. "Blessing, are you also sick?" Zainab asked gently. Blessing hesitated. "I have not been feeling well for a long time," she admitted. "But I do not have money for a doctor." Zainab examined Blessing and discovered that she had liver disease that needed treatment. She explained the condition to her and told her that the clinic would help her, and that payment could be arranged based on what she could afford. Blessing cried. She had never experienced such kindness from a healthcare provider. She had always been afraid to go to doctors because she thought they would treat her badly because she was poor. Stories like Blessing's became common at the clinic. People came not just for medical treatment but because they felt respected and cared for. Zainab had created a place where the poor could come and be treated with dignity. Meanwhile, Zainab's mother Fatima continued to improve. With proper medical care and medicine that she could now afford, her diabetes was well controlled. She had gained back some of the weight she had lost and her energy had returned. She spent her days helping at the clinic, welcoming patients and making them feel comfortable. She was so proud of what her daughter had accomplished. Zainab's brother Deo had been accepted into a prestigious engineering school in Lagos. He was studying hard and excelling in his classes. He often came to the clinic and helped Zainab with small tasks, learning from her example about the importance of serving others. One evening, Zainab and Kofi sat together in the clinic office, looking at the patient records for the day. They had treated over 100 people. Some had serious illnesses, but many had only minor problems that could be treated with medicine and good advice. "You know what I have learned?" Kofi said thoughtfully. "I thought that being wealthy meant having money and possessions. I thought that success meant building a big business and making a lot of profit. But watching you work here, seeing how happy these people are just because someone treats them with kindness and respect, I realized that true wealth is something different." "What do you mean?" Zainab asked. "True wealth comes from lifting others up," Kofi said. "It comes from genuine human connection. It comes from knowing that you have made a difference in someone's life. When I was making millions of dollars before, I was not truly happy. But now, watching this clinic help so many people, watching you discover your purpose and fulfill your dreams, I am happier than I have ever been." Zainab smiled. "I could not have done any of this without you," she said. "You believed in me when I was just a tired girl falling asleep on your bed. You gave me a chance when no one else would. And you proved that you were worth believing in," Kofi replied. "You worked hard. You studied late into the night. You never gave up, no matter how difficult things became. You earned this success, Zainab. I simply opened a door for you, but you walked through it on your own." They looked out the window of the clinic at the community beyond. Children were playing in the street. An elderly woman was sitting on a bench, waiting to see the doctor. A young mother was bringing her baby for a vaccination. This was a poor community, but it was filled with hope now. It was filled with the knowledge that there was a place where people cared about them and would help them. Zainab realized that her journey had come full circle. She had gone from being a poor hotel cleaner struggling to survive to being a nurse who was helping her community. She had gone from having nothing to having everything that mattered. And it had all started with a moment of exhaustion and the kindness of a stranger. 6 months after the clinic opened, something unexpected happened. The story of Zainab and Kofi had spread throughout Lagos. Journalists had written articles about the girl who fell asleep in a billionaire's bed and how that moment had changed both of their lives. The story was shared on social media and it went viral. People were inspired by it. They wanted to know more about this young nurse and the kind businessman who had believed in her. The Grandview Hotel, the place where Zainab's journey had begun, decided to do something special. The hotel manager, Mr. Adeyemi, had always regretted that Zainab had been forced to work such difficult shifts without proper breaks. He felt that the hotel shared responsibility for her exhaustion that day. When he learned about the successful clinic that she and Kofi had established, he approached them with an idea. "I would like to turn part of our hotel into a community outreach center," Mr. Adeyemi told Zainab and Kofi. "A place where we can offer free health screenings, free health education programs, and connect poor people with the resources they need. The Grandview Hotel wants to be part of this mission to help our community." Zainab and Kofi agreed immediately. They began to transform the basement and first floor of the hotel into a beautiful community center. There was a large hall where health education classes could be held, smaller rooms for private consultations, and a space for blood pressure checks and basic health screenings. The hotel donated all the furniture and equipment. Local businesses also donated supplies and resources. The grand opening of the Community Outreach Center happened on a sunny Saturday morning. Hundreds of people came from the surrounding neighborhoods. There were poor families who had never been able to afford proper medical care. There were elderly people who lived alone and needed health advice. There were mothers with children who needed vaccinations and health checks. Zainab walked around the center, greeting people and explaining what services were available. She was no longer the exhausted, desperate hotel cleaner. She was now Dr. Zainab's colleague, and even without a doctor's degree, she was respected as an expert in healthcare. People listened to her advice and trusted her knowledge. One of the first visitors to the center was a young girl named Chioma, who was only 17 years old. Chioma's mother had died of complications from diabetes, and Chioma herself had recently been diagnosed with the same disease. She had come to the center hoping to learn how to manage her condition so that she would not die like her mother. Zainab spent 2 hours with Chioma, teaching her about diabetes, about nutrition, about the importance of exercise, and about how to take her medicine properly. She explained that with proper care Chioma could live a long and healthy life. She also told her about her own mother, how Fatima had struggled with diabetes but was now thriving because she received proper medical care. Chioma's eyes filled with tears. "I thought I was going to die," she said. "I thought diabetes meant the end of my life like it did for my mother." "No," Zainab said firmly. "Diabetes is a disease that can be managed. You will live, Chioma. You will do great things. But you have to take care of yourself and you have to get regular checkups. This center is here to help you and I am here to help you." Chioma's transformation was remarkable. Over the following months she came to the center regularly for checkups and education classes. She learned how to cook healthy meals, how to exercise properly, and how to take her medicine. Her blood sugar levels became stable, and her health improved significantly. Most importantly, she felt hope again. Stories like Chioma's multiplied as word spread about the community outreach center. Young people came to learn about sexual health and disease prevention. Elderly people came to manage their chronic illnesses. Mothers came to learn about childcare and nutrition. The center became a hub of health education and support for the entire community. Kofi established a scholarship fund to train more young people to become nurses and healthcare workers. He believed that the best way to help a community was to develop its own people to become leaders and providers. Several young people from poor backgrounds were selected for the program, trained by Zainab and other healthcare professionals, and then employed at the clinic and the community center. One of these young people was a boy named Chukwu. He had grown up in the same poor neighborhood as Zainab, and his story was similar to hers. His family was struggling and he had little hope for his future. But after attending the community center he learned about healthcare careers. He was selected for the scholarship program and began his training as a nursing assistant. Chukwu worked under Zainab's supervision, and she taught him everything she knew. She showed him not just the technical skills of nursing, but also the compassion and respect that should accompany those skills. Within a year, Chukwu had become a skilled healthcare worker, and he was helping to run the clinic. "You see," Zainab told him one day, "my story and your story are not so different. We both came from nothing. But we both had people who believed in us and gave us opportunities. Now we have the responsibility to do the same for others." The impact of the clinic and community center extended beyond individual health outcomes. The community itself began to change. More money was being spent on health and education. More young people had hope for their futures. The neighborhood became cleaner and safer as people took more pride in their surroundings. Zainab's mother Fatima became the heart of the community center. Even though she was no longer young and her health required careful management, she volunteered her time to welcome visitors and make them feel comfortable. She told her own story to patients, showing them that recovery from serious illness was possible with proper care and support. One day, a journalist came to interview Zainab for a major newspaper. The journalist wanted to know about her journey from hotel cleaner to respected healthcare provider. "It was not easy," Zainab told her honestly. "There were times when I wanted to give up. There were nights when I cried because I was so tired. There were moments when I did not believe that I could succeed. But I had people who believed in me even when I did not believe in myself. Kofi gave me an opportunity, but more importantly he believed in my potential. My mother encouraged me to dream. My professor mentored me. And my community supported me." The journalist asked, "What would you say to other poor young people who are struggling like you were?" Zainab thought carefully before answering. "I would tell them that their circumstances do not define their future. I would tell them that no matter how difficult things are right now, there is always hope. I would tell them to work hard, to stay in school, to believe in themselves, and to look for people who can mentor and guide them. Most of all, I would tell them that one moment can change everything. For me, that moment was falling asleep on a billionaire's bed. For you, that moment might be tomorrow or next week. But it will come if you keep working and keep believing." The article was published with a picture of Zainab standing in front of the community center, surrounded by patients and staff members. The story spread again, and this time, more businesses and wealthy individuals came forward wanting to support the clinic and community center. The movement that had started with one tired girl and one kind billionaire was growing into something much larger. Years later, the clinic had expanded to serve thousands of patients. The community outreach center had trained hundreds of healthcare workers. And Zainab had become known throughout Lagos and even beyond as a healthcare innovator and advocate for the poor. But she never forgot where she came from. She never forgot the feeling of desperation and exhaustion that had driven her to fall asleep on that luxurious bed. Every day, she worked with the same dedication and compassion that had carried her through her difficult times. One evening, Zainab and Kofi stood together on the roof of the Grandview Hotel, looking out over the city of Lagos. The sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of orange and red. Below them, the community center was still bustling with activity. People were coming and going, seeking help, finding hope. "Do you remember the day you fell asleep in my bed?" Kofi asked. Zainab smiled. "I remember being terrified," she said. "I thought my life was over." "And now?" Kofi asked. "Now," Zainab said, looking out at the community that she had helped to transform, "I know that sometimes the most important moments in our lives come when we are at our lowest point. That moment of exhaustion led me to you, and it has led me to help thousands of people. I am grateful for that moment even though I was so afraid at the time." "You have done remarkable things," Kofi said. "But more than that, you have inspired others to do remarkable things. This movement is no longer about you and me. It is about our entire community. It is about the young nurses that you trained. It is about the people whose lives have been changed by the care they received at our clinic. That is the true measure of success." As the sun disappeared below the horizon and the stars began to appear in the night sky, Zainab thought about her journey. She had gone from being a desperate hotel cleaner to being a respected healthcare provider and community leader. She had helped her mother recover from serious illness. She had ensured that her brother could pursue his dreams of becoming an engineer. She had changed the lives of thousands of people in her community. And it had all started with a moment of exhaustion and the kindness of a stranger who believed in her potential.